we've mentioned 3 substitution margins. I have 5 on this slide. The first one is the higher margin, go back to work margin. The second one is the separation margin. The fourth one we just talked about. And the third one's related to that. In fact, maybe next year we'll give a homework like you guys have been doing with the Edgeworth box now twice. Twice is enough maybe for this year. But you could think of doing that with capital and labor as the dimensions of the box, the factors, and the corners being your cyclical industry and your acyclical industry. And think about, well, what if we subsidize labor in the cyclical industry? What's going to happen? And one of the effects you looked at there, we called the factor substitution effect. Is that how Jaja referred to it? You called it the factor substitution effect? Yeah. So that's what I'm referring to in the third bullet. Another margin, which I'm going to, toward the end today, we'll get to a flavor of that. I've kind of referred to it, that people are encouraged to understand the system, the more generous it is. I kind of mentioned that, in the construction industry, the companies are very good at helping their workers sign up. That's telling you there's some kind of friction. People don't automatically go on the program as a matter of behavior. Even though they're eligible, they might not know about it. They might view it as too much of a hassle. But the larger the benefit, the greater the incentive to overcome that hassle, to obtain the knowledge, or have an institution that does that on your behalf, like your employer. So that's another margin. It's a kind of human capital margin. That's where I'm going to come back to it later today and also on Monday. Yes?
Isn't there like a sixth margin, which is that the acyclical industry becomes cyclical?
Yes, we could call it that. I didn't have a variable for that, but yes. I'm not sure the list of margins ever ends, which is really the main lesson today. I think redistribution and work are intrinsically interesting. But if you're not interested in that, the idea that there are lots of margins, this idea gets lost. Sometimes we study one margin, which is nothing wrong with studying one margin. You just, as an economist, you want to understand the larger context. That's one margin among others. Yes?
Think about a bit like workers' surplus here. If I prefer to have like more stable income flow, then and I'm working as like a seasonal industry, then this is like probably helping me.
Let's see. Jaja asked, what happens if people prefer to have stable income rather than a variable income? Now, we could add that as a perk and be in the acyclical industry. That comes naturally with an acyclical income. And that could be a variable over here, because as you noted, the benefit reduces the cyclicality of the income. And that would have a similar comparative static that we talked about in regards to Tyler's question. We will be shifting people, not only because you're affecting the mean compensation, but you're also affecting the variance, but you said, well, maybe people prefer not to have variance. Yes. So maybe that's a seventh margin. You guys are pretty good. We get up to a dozen. I want to emphasize that typically only one is studied, and the same one over and over. But you guys are making a longer list.